and has had the privilege of training about 11,000 people across Niagara, Orleans, and Genesee counties beginning in 2011. Before that, she helmed the Buffalo and Erie County Library's training lab, successfully restarting the service after its hiatus in 2005. She has her MLS from the University of Buffalo and her BS in Information Systems from Thomas College in Maine. Welcome, Sarah. You ready?
All set. Okay, so here we go. All right, so I successfully started recording it. Yay. So, all right, watch yourselves. No, I don't care. Let me go over, whoops. Okay, so I lost everybody. Hang on. I didn't lose I just on my screen. My apologies. It's going to be wild and woolly. All right, so this is really my big test run into doing almost anything. Well, I've done a few different Zoom meetings and things like that, but to actually do any real kind of training in this environment, I am finding it especially challenging to try and reach people. My typical demographic are people who are like, listen, my kids know I like to read, so they got me an e-reader. What do I do? You know, that's my typical demographic. Or I'll get other people, God love them. They're like, oh, you know, I saw this thing for Audible. Can't you get library books with, you know, on the podcasts and things like that? Yes, you can. So, so that's the typical type of people that I reach, which is great. And whoops, there we go. Okay. And what I'm gonna try and do for this particular class is we are gonna take a brief overview. This is really skimming the surface. They're almost micro classes, in my opinion, because I talk a lot and I like to engage people in that. So certainly I'm very excited. If you do have other questions or things pop up, please put them in the chat. I hope I have everybody's email as well. So certainly if you have a question and I can't answer it on the fly, and that happens a lot, I will do a search and then I can get back to you. So please, by all means, I want to make sure I have everybody's email if you registered. And I know a few people registered under the same email, like in a group setting. That's fine. As long as there's some way to reach you, just let me know that. Okay. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen and go ahead and get started because we only have an hour. And although that seems like a long time, it's not really a long time. All right, there we go. So the idea behind this class is we're going to do a very brief review of internet speed, potential issues that it can cause with all and any of the conferencing things. We're going to look at free and paid software. There's Facebook, there's Skype, there's Google Meet, there's Zoom. Those are the ones we're going to kind of limit it to. And you say, well, limit it to who else is out there? There's Microsoft Teams, there's the Amazon Echo works and Echo Show works for this, and there's other smaller companies that have all kinds of stuff. The one good thing is that they all seem to copy from one another, okay? So I'm gonna say this once, I'll say it again, and I'll say it another time. Pick something and get used to using it, all right? One of the things that I will not mention are things that are very specific. So things like FaceTime, that is peculiar to Apple products, FaceTime, and it really only works, I think, with other Apple users. They may have changed that already, I don't know, but I definitely wanted to focus on things that crisscross all the different, what are called platforms, and you'll hear me say that a lot. Platforms are, of course, Apple, Windows, and Linux for those that are the big purists for the computers, okay? So we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between the chat, webinar, and video conferencing, and then we'll look at Facebook, we'll look at Skype, we'll look at Google Meet, and then what I hope to do is actually dive a little more into Zoom, because that's what Niagara actually purchased, okay? And Zoom is kind of like now the big guy in the room ever since the early spring, so, okay. There we go. All right. So first things first, I always want to mention this. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Just expect it. That's okay. The overall quality of the web or video conference is always directly related to the user's internet speed. So not only your internet speed, but your user's internet speed. And the number of users on that particular router that's in the home, okay? If the user is experiencing delays, if they freeze, I've seen a lot of people are like, and they just stop. They're just stuck there. And you're like, did you? And you're like, oh no. So it happens, that's okay. And there's some things that we can help with, like Lisa mentioned in the beginning, to, you know, mute yourself and things like that. And there's other things that it's in the participants' hands to go ahead and work with. So if there's ever a lot of traffic on the net, it's just going to slow down no matter what. And on the screen here, I have the Ookla, which is the speed test. The Ookla has been around for 20 plus years. And they actually, if I'm a big proponent of not just Googling something, but actually going to the proper website. So if you want Ookla, you can go directly to speedtest.net. That's why I have it there on the screen. And they're the oldest service that I know of that will give you a real quick reading on what your internet speed is, okay? So that actually will both account for a lot of issues and can solve a lot of issues depending, right? Okay. Oh, and I'm going to mention this right now to Lisa, just to mention, I cannot see the chat box. So if someone is typing in chat, Lisa, just, you know, metaphorically tap me on the shoulder, let me know. So that's fine. Okay. Okay. All right, so, and of course, as always, and I know you all know this, but the video files are always the largest files that the computer handles, whether they're on or offline. Picture and sound files follow, and sound files, of course, depend on the length of the recording. If you're talking about you know, an opera, that's a huge recording, it's going to be a huge file. If you're talking about a pop song or something short, very small, very quick to handle. Text files are always the smallest and easiest for the computer to handle. So when you're talking about these types of things like Zoom, like Google Meet, like Facebook, you're talking huge bandwidth, more than you might expect. And in my experience, it was quite funny. At one time at one of the libraries, I was talking to a parent, and he had mentioned, he goes, well, we pay for extra internet and we get like this stuff where you see kind of this buffering or weird stuff like you might see on the screen. Well, after talking with him for a little while, it turns out that they had a very nice internet speed, but their son was an avid gamer. And so the video game was taking up all their bandwidth. So the lowest bandwidth that's available is generally not good enough anymore. And when we talk about things like broadband, you're talking specifically what they call the 25.3 standard. That's 25 megabits per second as an upload, excuse me, and 25 megabits per second is a download. You always want the download speed to be faster when you're looking at things, and 3 megabits per second upload, okay? Not everyone has broadband. There's internet access, which is lower than that, and then there's broadband, and then there's even faster, okay? So the 25.3 standard is actually broadband, not to be confused just with access, okay? And people who don't know what their internet speed is usually, well, it depends. They can go to that speedtest.net and find out what their internet speed is. Okay. All right, so getting more into the meat and potatoes, let me go along here. For this overview, I just want to introduce different platforms and consider some pros and cons to each. There are free and paid options. And of course, we'll need to work with within whatever parameters are actually set by our respective organizations, okay? So this whole situation is all fluid, okay? And we can expect changes to be made at the last minute always, okay? And this is not optimal, but we do the best we can with what we have. I expect, like I've mentioned, to make mistakes. You're my test run, so thank you very much. And I also very much expect that I can't cover the same amount of material online as I can in person. Call them micro classes. That's, you know, it seems to work a little bit better. So as far as what we're going to cover today, you can see on the slides here on the free side, we have Facebook video. You have personal calling among friends or friend groups. You have Skype, the oldest and first widely adopted video call platform. It's now owned by Microsoft and has been integrated into Windows 10. And then you have Google Meet, Google Duo, which is integrated with all of your Google accounts. You sign into your account and they're already there. The other nice thing, just to hold this up, if you have an Android style phone, you have this stuff is built in: Google Meet, Google Duo, those types of things, okay? And you're already signed in. For paid versions, of course, the big guy right now is Zoom. And there are free and paid. We'll talk about some of the differences between them. And let's see, to be clear, sorry, I am using Zoom today because that was what was purchased by the Niagara Library System. It's fine. There are a lot of people who simply ask me right off, but what do you prefer? What do you use? Potato, potato to me, not a big deal, okay? If you are talking with people, like I mentioned, the people who are like, well, you know, the kids know I like to read, so how do I use this? If people are asking you, well, what's the best thing to use? I would tell them, use what your family uses, okay? If your family is an Apple family, you have some built-in help, some support, and when they look, you know, if you need help and you're talking to them, they can picture the screen, or you can show them the screen and they can tell you what the issue might be, okay? If you have people like myself, more just Android, simply because that's what I gravitate to, fine, then I would recommend people getting Android type stuff. Again, to be clear, all of these go all across platforms, and especially if you pay for them, like through Zoom, that'll go through. It doesn't matter if a person has Apple, Android, Linux, Windows, whatever, it works. So that's always good. Okay. All right. So just to make sure that we have this clear too, there is apparently a difference between video chat software and what they call webinar or conferencing. So you can see this on the screen. When you have chat or meeting, a lot of it is one-to-one. Sometimes it's one-to-many, like this is actually a meeting, which is not one-to-one, it's more one-to-many. But usually the biggest difference is the number of people involved. If everyone can talk, or if there's a host or a panel, and then the other participants have to be muted, or they can't talk, or sometimes, and we'll get into this, I promise, sometimes there are attendees that can only raise their hand and then they can type questions into chat. And that would be for the paid format, for the webinars, specifically for Zoom. That is over and above the initial paid format for Zoom, okay? So I have to say, Trust Radius did an excellent summary. So the difference between web conferencing software allows participants to host and attend meetings through the internet. It's also referred to as simply online meeting software, video conferencing software. You can tell this is why people call it Zoom, because if you just say Zoom, people know video conferencing. Okay. What is that? It's like the difference between saying a cotton swab and a Q-tip. Q-tip is the brand name, Zoom is the brand name, versus video conferencing. That's what it is. Okay? The biggest difference though between a webinar and web conferencing is the size. Webinar software is best for much larger group meetings or online events with large audiences and sometimes hundreds or sometimes thousands of participants. Web and video conferencing platforms shine the brightest when used for sharing ideas and making decisions between remote stakeholders. So again, when you have a meeting and everyone can talk and share ideas back and forth. Okay. And they go on to talk about key features of different video conferencing. And again, I'm going to reiterate now, so many of these have already kind of copied one versus another. So what's the difference between Google Meet and Zoom and this and that? The answer is, quite frankly, not much. Okay, so take that. That's actually a good sign, because if you pick one and you decide you want to use that and learn it, you can quickly adapt to other platforms. Okay, so the key features that this Trust Radius survey, they surveyed 180 plus different users, and they found the top 5 features to look for, keep in mind when looking for web or video conferencing, which is screen sharing. Okay, so I found a little, this is one of the Chromecast kind of screen sharing icons that you'll see out there. Of course, multi-device support, phones, desktop. Well, I've got automotive here. I hope no one's in your car. Don't be, or just pull over, okay? But you want, of course, an easy to use interface, the ability to chat there too, and the meeting recording as well. So this little icon here, this is actually from Zoom itself. So you have your little chat icon with the little bubble and the actual ability to record the meetings. Okay. And that's great, because if people are in or they can't attend, you can then take that recording and you should be able to share that. Okay, so that's always nice. Lisa, are we doing anything for questions? Are we okay?
Nothing so far.
Okay, no problem.
I got questions.
Whoop. What's up?
Give me a moment.
Were you able to find the chat box? That should
Yeah.
be at the bottom of your screen.
I
Okay.
sent it.
Okay, perfect. All right. Okay, so just, yep, like I said, just feel free, go ahead, type those in.
I did.
Okay, and it's funny too, the funny thing is I've attended meetings where there are completely different conversations going on in the chat room than there are in the meeting, because you slow down and start asking things. So
Sarah, do you want Richard's question?
sure, what is it, since we're talking about questions now? Why not?
What is the minimum speed you need?
Oh, really for good internet speed, the minimum bandwidth I would generally recommend is the general broadband capability. So you're talking, if you go to speedtest.net, you'll see it actually spits back an actual number, and it will give you, it'll tell you, BPS, okay. It's 25 megabits per second for your download speed. And remember, the download speed is basically when you're taking stuff from the internet up there and then you're loading it and you're looking at it on your screen on the computer. So you always want your download speed to be faster. It will always be faster than your upload. Right now, if you watch commercials, I don't watch a whole ton of TV, but Spectrum is advertising their business internet at like 200 megabits per second for like $45 a month. They're saying no contract. I don't know, Spectrum, all the cable companies, they have a tendency to increase their rates. But I know actually our IT guy went and got a rate locked in a year or two ago when Spectrum was offering 100 megabits per second download speeds for $45 a month. So that's 4 times as fast, and it's of course at 200 megabits per second, that's 8 times as fast as standard broadband. But remember, you're going to pay for that when you get regular internet access. If you're not paying, if you're paying less than $30, $40 a month for your internet, you're probably not getting broadband. Too many people, in my opinion, in my experience, absolutely mix up the two. I actually talked with someone who was doing a presentation and she didn't know the difference. I said, well, what is broadband? She didn't know. And I went, okay, sorry to put you on the spot, but you know, that's what it is. Okay. So there's slower internet and there's faster internet.
Sarah, Richard has a follow-up question. My class runs 3 hours. Doesn't Zoom charge for this? What platforms don't?
None. Zoom does charge for it, okay? And Zoom with the free account, Zoom allows you up to 40 minutes of time and up to 100 participants, I believe. And I just had the same question earlier today. Right now, and starting in September, Google Meet was free and it was unlimited. Starting some point in September, Google's going to start charging. They're going to limit you to 60 minutes and they're going to charge you for that time. Okay. Now, or over, if you go over 100 people or over 60 minutes. Now, if I wanted to get a little sneaky, what I would do is I would create, and I'll show you how to do this, I would create 3 Google meetings. And I would do a 50-minute class and then take a 10-minute break and then join another one and a 50-minute and take another break and a 50-minute. Okay. So, you know, if that's what you want to do, I'm not telling you what to do, but you know, it's a possibility.
Yes. Okay.
And as long as you're not going over 100 people, then you're good to go with that. Okay. All right. So let me continue on with Facebook and we'll go to Google and we'll keep going, but good stuff. Okay. And again, please, if you have other questions or whatnot, please type them in the chat. And if I don't have time to answer them, I will, and I got to watch because it's already 25 minutes in. And we're only on slide 7. I promise we'll get through these. Okay, so to start in with the free platform specifically, okay, I'm going to start with Facebook, not because I have some great love for Facebook, I don't, but it's free and a lot of people use it, so it's very familiar. Familiarity is a really important factor when people are already trying to learn something new, and then you throw something in on top of that, that it gets, you know, it gets hairy fast, okay? If you have not used, I've run into a lot of people who have not used Facebook video chat, but you are familiar with Facebook, it is fairly easy. What you do is you log into your Facebook account. So what I had done with these screenshots that you see is right up here where my mouse is moving. I actually logged into Facebook on the computer, and here on the upper left-hand side, about where you'd see it on the screen, you see your control panel. You see Messenger. So when you click Messenger, what happens is you get a whole listing. You see a whole listing of all of your friends. And my poor daughter, I blacked her out here, but she's there. And I went ahead and clicked on her. And as soon as I click on her, what opens up is her little profile. So you can see that here in the lower left-hand corner. And at the top of the profile is this little video. It's an old-fashioned video camera. And if you click that, what happens is your device, whether it's a computer, whether it's your phone, however you use Facebook Messenger, will actually ring, kind of like a regular telephone. And it would be noted as a missed call or a missed chat, or if you connect, it just logs then that the chat has ended. So you can see here that I went ahead and I connected with her. You see there's a little green dot right there. So I had connected with her and then I was like, thanks, hon, bye. And I hung up on her. So that was good. This is chat. This is just like a telephone. It's not conferencing. Everyone can speak at any time. It's basically a free-for-all. There is no host. to help referee the call, and it's free, but it's also not private. Facebook monitors everything, and just like Google, just like Apple, just like Microsoft, just like Amazon, just like every other tech company out there, nothing is really free, okay? Just know what you're getting and do not be surprised when, not if, but when you start to see advertisements for the things you have already talked about. It's getting a little freaky. So, all right. But it's there. Okay. Now, the other thing I want to mention about this Facebook chat specifically is it might be the easiest thing for your students to use. I don't know. It depends on how you teach, how many, if you do one-on-one tutoring or whatnot. Okay. Facebook, for all of its foibles, is familiar, and some people might actually have one of the Facebook portals at home. Now, a portal is a camera that's actually logged into its little device that's already logged into Facebook. The portal can be a simple camera on a bar that's above your television, or it can be a camera with a little screen on it, okay? And if it's logged into your Facebook account and it's hooked up, if you call someone on Messenger, it just pops right up. And not only does it pop right up either on your television screen or on that device, the little camera will follow the main person around the room. It's a little bit scary. My mother-in-law has one, but it's useful because it's right there. There's no, once you get it set up, there's no more messing around with it. It just logs in, it's there, you're done, okay? The Amazon Echo Show works in very much the same way. And there's far too many choices around here, but they're all out there, okay? Some people, again, if they're more familiar, they're like, oh, Facebook, okay, well, I'll trust them. And you're like, oh, well, okay. And so you go that way. It's up to you on what you want to use, okay? And again, remember, of course, the parameters of your organization, privacy, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, the nice thing about Skype is it is now built into Windows 10. And what I did for Skype was I went here to the little search bar that would be on the bottom of your, or on your taskbar. You click it and then you type in Skype and you search for it, and then you see the little Skype logo. So you go ahead and you open it up, and as soon as you open up Skype, you'll get your Let's Get Started. You can sign in with your Microsoft account, or you can sign in with a Skype account if you have a separate one, okay? And again, with the Microsoft account, a lot of people have them. If you purchased, back in 2012, if you purchased a Windows 8 computer, that's when the Microsoft accounts really started coming online. And certainly if you've purchased a Windows 10, the Microsoft accounts are there as well. So this is your actual opening screen here. So this half of the screen, I was trying to condense how many PowerPoint slides I had. So I have no contacts. I don't generally use Skype. But if I did, I would use it for a meeting. And what I can do is I can go right here to the little Meet Now button. And I tried to place these on the screen about where you would see them when it actually pops up literally on your screen. So if you click the Meet Now button, I lost my mouse, there it is. What happens is you get this little pop-up over the top. It's an overlay on top, and it will literally create a custom web address, a URL, to actually literally meet right now, okay? So keep that in mind, Meet Now. You can share your invite and then anybody can join. You don't have to have a Skype or a Microsoft account. Again, that's good, okay? So what I did then was I clicked the little continue button that's down here. And when I did that, this little window popped right up, okay? So it has the little URL right here. And I blacked it out because, like I said, it just keeps changing no matter what you do, because it's literally a Meet Now. And I could choose to start the call, but if I started the call, I would be the only person on it. I really want to invite people. So when I click the share invite, this little sub menu is actually just what popped up. I don't have to, I just click on it and it comes up and you have the choices that say, of course, you can copy the link. You can send it out immediately to your Skype contacts. It will give you a shortcut to Outlook Mail, or it will give you a shortcut to your Gmail email. Okay. I am old school. I almost always choose to just copy the link. I prefer to do that and then open a new window with my email and then just paste it into the email. So, but that's kind of, I'm old. So, okay. And what I would do then is just like the Zoom meetings, only not as much information. It's just the basic link. I would go ahead and actually put that in my email and send it. When people actually get the invitation, they can go ahead, they would open up their email, they go, oh, there's a meeting, they can click the link, and as soon as they click the link, this is what they see. They see you've been invited to join a Skype conversation, and you also get this right at the top, do you want to open Skype? Okay, and again, they say that this crisscrosses platforms. You don't have to have a Skype account. So I assume that most of this is, again, cloud-based. So you're in the Microsoft servers, but they make it look seamless. This is over the internet, okay? So not necessarily on your machine. Okay, so when you do that, and when your attendees go ahead and click the open Skype right there, they actually then come into the meeting. Again, extremely similar. They all kind of copy off of one another, extremely similar to what you saw when you opened up the Zoom meeting and then joined into the meeting. Okay. All right. Does anyone here use Skype? I do? No, yeah, no. I'm seeing mostly head shakes on a negative, what I can see. So, but it's nice because it is built into Windows 10. So, so it is there. Okay. Okay. How we doing? Doing all right? Okay. Let me move along to Google Meet. Okay, so here is I had to look around to get the actual logo. I had a brain cramp there. The logo for Google Meet, okay? And I have used Google Meet through our Google Calendar, and I have found it to be very easy to use. So like Skype, if all you do is log into your Gmail account, it has a little start meeting on the left-hand side. So if you haven't seen that, if you look at your Gmail, if you look at the left-hand side of the screen, you'll simply say it goes start meeting. Oh, well, great. But you have to click it, and then you have to keep that window open to get everybody to actually join the meeting. So that's a bit of a pain. It's much easier to schedule Google meetings through the Google Calendar, okay? Because that gives you a steady URL, a steady link that you can then send out to people, okay? So they can join at the proper time. All right, if you schedule your Google Meet through the calendar, it works like Zoom. Once you save the event, it will keep your phone number, a meeting ID, and the PIN people will need to join the meeting at the correct time. So the nice thing too about Google Meet, although right now it's unlimited, remember in September they are going to go ahead and start limiting the time and the amount of people. It's going to limit to 60 minutes and 100 people. But this is I'm looking at this here. This is when you go to your Google Calendar, this is actually in the calendar. So you would click on the calendar logo. When you go to the calendar, you click on your date, and this is your add event. And in the add event, all of this was all in there, the guests, the location, the description, the calendar, and then they add this big blue button that says add Google Meet video conferencing. So you would go ahead and you would click that within the event in your Google Calendar, okay? And when you do that, okay, so when I click that, it says right here, join with Google Meet. And right now they say up to 250. Like I said, that's going to get limited. Here would be the steady URL for the meeting ID. And then very nicely, if people have either slower internet or they've discovered they have a problem, or like I said, you know, their kids are playing or they're going to school or they're doing other things and they have to join by phone, maybe they don't have a device. The nice thing is that very rarely is there any more long distance. And so even though it's a 617 number, most people already have long distance included in their plans. So with the phone number and the PIN, they would be able to go ahead and actually join your meeting just with a regular telephone. Okay, so that makes it very convenient as well. Okay. All right. Can you make sure? Oh yeah, it's a good thing. I have this on my notes here. I've got this in capital letters. Be sure to join your own meeting. I've sat at my computer actually wondering where everyone was in my own meeting. Yeah. So once you want to start it, just make sure you join it too, okay? And remember, these are meetings too, so you're not really a host. You are, even though you've scheduled it, you're considered a participant in the meeting. So that's okay. All right. All right. And as I've got down here, I'm looking here, once you save the event, so again, this is through your calendar. Once you save the event, it will keep the phone number, the meeting ID, and the PIN that people need to join. And again, I already mentioned that if you want to use a phone or if another device, if all people have is a phone, they can't use a computer or other device, that's a very convenient way to join. So,
Sarah,
yes.
I have a question. Does it matter if you don't own a cell phone?
No, these would be, these phone numbers are actually telephone numbers. So that's a good question. And no, you can actually use a regular landline phone. And as long as you have, I'm trying to think if there's any plan that I know of in the past 10 years that doesn't include long distance, like bundled in. Like I almost never hear about long distance. If anyone knows that there's something where you get charged for long distance, I haven't in ages. So this is just for regular telephones. So so that's fine. No cell phone necessary. Also very good. All right. But do make sure to join your own meeting. Otherwise you'll be sitting there going, where is everybody? Not, like I said, not that I've done that before. Okay, so this is a wonderful shot here of my wall because I had the microphone on and the camera and it was pointed off to the wall. Right. So once you start your meeting, your camera, mic, and the meeting link will open along with a dial-in number. You can see that over here with the dial-in number and the PIN. And then you have an option to present and then share your screen, which was, again, one of the top 5 features that was noted in that survey, to share your screen and let other people see what the heck was going on with that. Okay. And again, of course, screen sharing, of course, doesn't work if you're on a telephone, not to be pedantic here or whatever, but people who are on a phone, I've worked with people who are actually either very low or legally blind or completely blind, and you have to describe everything, and that's okay. Do keep that in mind. If people are just on the phone, of course, they cannot see your screen. So don't assume that everybody can see everything, okay? So again, how do I know that? I've done it before. So yeah, okay. Okay. How is everyone doing? All right. We're into the home stretch here. Last 20 minutes. We good? Almost. Okay. All right. Any other questions before we get over to Zoom here?
Yes, you do have one. I'm teaching community education courses at a few school districts this fall, Grand Island, Niagara, Wheatfield, and Newport. Do you happen to know what systems districts are using for their programs?
First of all, God bless you. Okay, it was a bit of a joke there, but every school district is local. That means that every school district that you mentioned can all pick whatever they want. Again, the good part about it is if Niagara Wheatfield uses something, and let me actually time out, let me interrupt myself. The other problem with schools is there's definitely, because they're schools, they're under 18, they're kids, you have absolute privacy issues and concerns. Each school district may contract with a different company to provide student logins and student information, okay? I know Niagara Wheatfield, which was hosting this one, or was not hosting, we're hosting it, but he was nice enough to kind of get the word out to other people. They go through what they call Course Storm, and that's how you registered for the class, was Course Storm. And they would definitely have privacy and security issues that say like a public library or people dealing with adults and non-sensitive information do not have. So my best advice to you is to contact those particular school districts and find out what they're using. Now, don't be surprised to find out nobody really knows, because we're still in August, we're still figuring things out. Try your best to roll with it and do the best you can, okay? So it's not a very good answer, but the real answer is every single district can make its own decision, and they have privacy and security concerns that go above and beyond what we have like at a public library or for adult programming. Okay.
Sarah, can you take a couple more?
Yeah, sure.
From Linda, I used the library's line to join a Zoom meeting by phone and was surprised when the library was charged for the call.
Okay. So again, that might be with the, because almost all of the phone numbers are long distance. I don't know what plan that Sanborn has, or if there was something again different with that. That would be because you actually literally have to pick up the phone and dial the area code. So it is technically a long distance call. I apologize for that.
And one other one, what do you do if everything freezes during a video conference? I know this has happened to me before.
Yeah, yep, it's definitely happened to me. I have done a couple of different things. Number one, the number one rule of tech support is, did you stop it and restart it? Sometimes doing that, just exiting out of everything and then restarting and getting back into, say, the Zoom meeting or the Google Meet. That's one way to actually take care of the problem. If it gets really bad, I have actually restarted, and not my whole computer, thank goodness, but I've actually restarted my device, like my phone or whatnot. If that doesn't work, that should knock everything loose, okay? Restarting. And technically, actually, while I'm on that subject, you should be restarting all of your devices or any of your devices about once a week, okay? Because restarting any of your devices, whether it's a Kindle or a tablet or a phone, or even your regular computer, it helps. It cleans out the processor, it cleans out the memory. It's a good thing to do about at least once a week, okay? For any computer device. And that can certainly help with issues. The other thing that I have had, if I'm at my own home, or I can tell you I'm not going to name names, but I've been to a couple libraries where I've had to dig around in the mothballs and find the routers and actually physically restart the routers. I've had to physically restart the router, the little. Does everybody know what a router is? It's the thing that sits on the table with all the little blinking lights on it. I got into a minor argument with, well, not an argument, but with a lady. She goes, I don't have one of those in my home. And I said, because I had a picture of one and it was too dark apparently. And we went back and forth and back and forth. And she goes, I don't have one of those in my home. And then she finally went, wait, is that the thing that sits on the shelf and it's got the blinking lights on it? And I went, yes. Sometimes you have to actually, some of the routers will actually have a little a button or a switch that you can flick off and flick back on again. Or the other times what you may have to do is simply unplug the whole contraption. Another thing too, again, while we're on the topic, when you unplug something, don't just unplug it and then plug it back in. Like we're talking about with hand washing, okay? If you're washing your hands, you sing happy birthday or you count to 20 or whatever. Computers are the same thing. You can't just go, if you're going to do a reboot or a restart, you let the computer do the restart. If you're actually going to shut something down or unplug your router, leave it for 20 or 30 seconds. Sing happy birthday. Usually it takes me longer to figure out whose birthday is next, and then I start singing, and by that time, then I know I can plug the thing back in, okay? But don't just unplug it and then plug it right back in again. That is not going to help, all right? Unplug it, wait, patience, and then plug it back in. My own kids, God love them, they go, well, why did it work when you did it? Because I have a little patience. So that's something that can also be very helpful, okay? And if that doesn't work, it's beyond my expertise. I'd have to call the company. So does that help, I hope?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else before we go to the granddaddy here, Zoom? Anything else? Okay. All right. So again, too, just, go ahead and tap me on the shoulder there if I start going on too long. All right. I'm trying to be too respectful of your time as well. So for Zoom, what I did was I went right to, I almost went ahead and pointed at my screen. You wouldn't be able to see me doing that. So let me move my mouse. This right here, these screenshots right here are all from this particular website. So it's zoom.us/pricing. And this gives you all of the pricing for Zoom and what is included in that, okay? So here for the, these are personal meetings, free, hosts up to 100 participants, 40-minute time limit on group meetings, unlimited numbers of meetings, video conferencing, web conferencing, different features, security. For Pro, this is what most people go for, okay? So you get all of the basic features, includes 100 participants. If you need more, you got to pay for more. Meeting duration limit is 24 hours. So it's not the 40-minute limit, it's a 24-hour limit. If you move up to the business class, where other people are starting at, you can purchase up to 9 hosts per account. It says here for the Pro, 10 hosts for, like it says, $19.99 times 10. You get all of the Pro features, and you can get up to 300 participants, dedicated phone support and admin dashboard. Vanity URL. Now, a vanity URL means that you can actually pick the URL that you want. So if you're teaching a particular class, you can have zoom-us/ this is the best class in the world, or whatever you want it. So you can have a vanity URL, right? And then enterprise also there. So you have to, this starts at, so business actually starts at 10 hosts. So you have to pay almost $200 per month, just rounding that off. And then enterprise starts at 100 hosts. So you've got to have that. You're talking almost $2,000 a month, up to 500 participants. Enterprise Plus includes up to 1,000 participants. Unlimited cloud storage. Remember, video files are huge. And at an hour Zoom class with the video and the audio, you might actually take up your entire cloud here with with just one meeting. So with enterprise, you get unlimited cloud storage. So you pay for that. Okay. Dedicated customer success manager, you ought to, for $2,000 a month, and so on. More business reviews and things like that. Okay. Most of us, suffice it to say, are going to be kind of somewhere between the basic and the pro package. And that's fine. Okay. All right. So let me take a look at my notes here. Okay. All right, so I did show that. Sorry, I gotta find myself where I am in my notes. I did start that just because we wanted to get that. I wanted to get that up and out of the way first. I'm not trying to sell you anything, of course, and I just found the comparison chart and thought it would be useful to have. Okay. So once you start with Zoom, and this right in here, this is right from the zoom.us website, okay? And it says here, if you go to zoom.us, if you do type zoom.com, thank goodness somebody had the foresight to buy zoom.com and redirect you over to zoom.us so you don't get any kind of weird pop-ups or other things. So zoom.com redirects you to the proper Zoom account. Okay, or Zoom page, excuse me. And all right, so once we get there, we would go ahead and actually we would go to sign into our account. All right, but you can see it's got, there's helpful resources and things like that. And they've got here the Zoom solutions, the plans and pricing, contact sales, all the basic information. Okay, so I clicked on my account and I went ahead and signed in. And once you sign in, you are directed right here to what they call your profile page. Okay, this is your account page. And you see there's your profile, your meetings, your webinars, recordings, settings, your account profile, different reports. Now, some of these are for paid and some are not. So it depends on your Zoom add-in plan. Okay. But a basic Zoom and the next one up would include the profile, your meetings, and your recordings. Okay, for sure.
Sarah, a question from Richard.
Mm-hmm.
If I run 15 classes a month, is that the pro level since I am the only host?
Actually, let me just back up. You can actually, so looking at these right here, if it doesn't matter here for the free, and these are good questions. You can have up to 100 participants and they are unlimited one-to-one meetings, an unlimited number of meetings. So even an unlimited, the way I read that is that you can still host up to 100 people. So like I was saying, where you might do, like if you're saying it's a 3-hour class, if you're doing 50 minutes and then 50 minutes and 50 minutes, that would be 3 different meetings, but it says unlimited number of meetings. So the way I read that is that you are one account, you're one person, and you're fine. So you can host as many as you like. That's the way I'm reading it. Okay, that's the way I'm also reading it with Google Meet as well. You have an unlimited number of meetings. You're limited with Google Meet up to 60 minutes and up to 100 participants. So that's, just looking at that, that's the way I would read that. The big difference here between the free plan and the one that's $15 a month is the 40-minute time limit at one point in time versus you could have, God bless you if you want to do a 24-hour meeting, but you can have Zoom on for 24 hours if you want it. So, okay, those are the big differences between those. But it's an unlimited number of meetings. So you can schedule, that's how I'm reading that.
All right.
So are we good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Another question, Sarah. Do these programs allow you to upload documents for participants to access?
That's a good question. What I would, okay, I know also looking at, I know I kind of zoomed over Google Meets. I swear I didn't say that on purpose, but when you sign in with Google Meet actually allows you to sign in with your Google account, okay? So with your Google account, you have full access, and it gives you full access to the whole Google suite of applications, including things like Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Slides. So you can actually, and I have what I call on-demand classes for the Google Productivity Suite and things like that. Those are ways I know for a fact through Google Meet, you can do that, and they let you do that for free. Why do they let you do that for free? Because they scan everything you're putting in there, okay? So I want to be careful, again, in the things that I say. I don't want to sound paranoid, but at the same time, I want you to remember, nothing is really free. I'm using that word, but it does not mean what I think it means, right? A la the Princess Bride. Google, you have no privacy when it comes to Google, okay? It's something, though, that is very familiar to people. There are a lot of schools that are giving out or using Chromebooks and things of that nature. And if you have a Chromebook, you may be signed in, or there are some schools that are using the Google G Suite. And that would allow almost unlimited sharing and collaboration through the Google Productivity Suite. Okay. I know Skype allows for some of the easier sharing. I haven't done any sharing of documents or things like that on Zoom. Zoom, again, the things that you pay for. The other thing too, let me just interrupt myself, I'm sorry. As far as any documents or things that you might need to share, if this were a meeting or something else, I would consider actually simply doing the old way and attaching them to an email and emailing them out with the invite, and then having that ready for review or ready for the classroom. It depends on how you want to manage your classroom. I hope that answers the question.
Yes.
Not too
Thank you.
far off. Okay. Okay. So yeah, I think I would definitely go old school and just attach it to the email and share the documents that way. If you need true collaboration, I know for a fact you can do that through the Google Suite. I also know that Microsoft has really upped its game. So if you're using Skype or Microsoft Teams, you can do a fully functional share, collaborate, debate, write and sharing and all of those comments and things like that on documents, on Word and Excel. Okay. And again, Microsoft was very late to the game. They really copied Google in that. All right. And you'll also notice too, I have dropped Apple almost completely from the lexicon. I don't know what they're doing. And I think they're really reliant on these other companies to get the stuff done. So it's not that I am, I've been accused before of being kind of anti-Apple, or I used to say I don't like Apple products. I don't care. So I just want you to know, if you were an Apple aficionado, fantastic, use what works, okay? Google will also work across the platform. So Google works on Apple stuff as well. And if anybody knows or has any other different experience, please let me know, all right? Okay. All right, sorry, I keep interrupting myself. Okay, so this right here is when you log into your Zoom account, this is where you land, is on this page. You can actually have your own little picture if you wanted. So if you don't want just a black screen or something with your name on it, you can have a little picture there. Again, you know, always err on the side of caution. A professional picture is better than an unprofessional one and whatnot. Yikes, it's 7 o'clock, I'm sorry. If you need to leave, I certainly understand. Thank you very much, okay? Otherwise, like 10 more minutes, I promise we'll get through this, okay? Okay. All right. So the main thing that we would use with Zoom is to actually schedule a meeting. So to schedule a meeting, you would actually go right over here and you would click on the meetings link. When you do that right here on meetings, you go ahead and you click schedule a new meeting. Okay. You can also save time, it says right here, by scheduling meetings directly from your calendar. So there is actually a plugin for Outlook. So if you use Outlook, use the Outlook calendar. You can schedule your Zoom meetings directly through Outlook, or you can actually download what they call the Chrome extension. So if you like to use Google Chrome, if you use the Google Calendar, you can actually put your Zoom meetings directly into your Google Calendar or your scheduling, okay? All right, and as soon as you start scheduling a meeting, they walk you step by step right through the form, okay? So the topic, they have just a generic my meeting. You would put whatever you wanted in there. The meeting description, your date and time. Now remember, your duration for the free set is going to be 40 minutes. You're limited to 40 minutes. For the pro plan, it was 24 hours. All right, and then what your time zone is, if it's a recurring meeting, if it's a recurring meeting, it might be something that you can keep scheduling again. You can have registration required. That's a really good way to make sure that you get everybody's email addresses to make sure everybody gets the right information. Okay. The meeting ID, usually it's already set here at the generate automatically, or you can click where you have your own personal meeting ID. I don't know, and I don't know of any benefits or the pros or cons of having it generate automatically versus a personal meeting ID. Since the generate automatically is already clicked, I just leave it alone. So also, I can tell you though too, there were multiple stories of Zoom meetings being Zoom bombed by other people. And people who were not supposed to be in a meeting actually getting into meetings and things like that. So Zoom recently, within the past few months, you can see I was on here in June when I took the screenshot. By June, they were requiring passwords. Always better for your, not that passwords can't get out, but it's always better for your security. Okay. So they just automatically have that required password in there. Okay. As you keep scrolling down through the form, you can have your host video on or off right away, your participant video on or off right away. You can choose what kind of audio. So again, they have this at both so that you get both a telephone number and people can use their device or their computer. Okay? The one thing too that I really, really like, and I did enable this for the meeting, was to enable the waiting room. I don't know that Google Meet has a waiting room on it, but what that does is it allows you to be in the meeting and then allows the people to kind of filter in. And as a participant in the meeting, it allows me to actually log into the meeting. And I've said this before, but not here. I have a tendency to either log in 10 minutes early or 5 minutes too late. So having the meeting room is great because I would log into the meeting room 5 or 10 minutes before the meeting, and then I'd go on and I'd do other stuff, and then I'd start hearing things coming from my audio, and I go, well, what's going on? Oh, the meeting started, and I could put my headphones on or whatever, and I'd be all set. So I like the waiting room, and so I always end up checking that. You can actually, if you want, have people join before the host joins. Again, it all depends on, this is on your choices, whatever you like. You can actually have participants muted upon their entry. So that's always a good thing, so that you don't get the random dog barks and all kinds of other things going on. I did not check this. Only authenticated users can join. I'm not exactly sure what that is. I left it alone. I did have mine where it says record the meeting automatically. So as soon as it starts recording. So that's one less thing that I have to worry about. Okay. The other thing too, for what they call here alternative hosts. Alternative hosts are only allowed if they have a Zoom account. Okay. So I would think that has to be either the free account or a paid account. Okay. So you would go ahead, this is, like I said, you just scroll down, you fill out the whole form, and then you click save. And when you click save, just to go to the next screen here, this is what you end up seeing. So, okay, once you save your meeting, you get the invite link, and that's here at the bottom of the screen. And again, I just blanked it out just so there wouldn't be any confusion, okay? And you get your topic, your description, the date and time. You can add it to your own Google Calendar, your own Outlook calendar, or your own Yahoo calendar. So they've got it so that it's very easy to do. You have your meeting identification, password, and again, the link. Okay. And you all received a link for this email for this particular meeting. So you see it's got all kinds of information. All that information, you just copy the invite, and then you open up your email and you paste. When you compose a new email, it all just pastes in. You can paste it just automatically. Just do your Control V or right click and paste, or I think Command paste, and it'll work for you. Okay. So when you go to copy the meeting invitation, like I mentioned, it gives you all of this stuff, okay? Most of us don't look, I certainly don't look much beyond right here where it says join meeting, and I'm getting the email and I go click, and then I'm in. I'm like, okay, there we are. So, but they have other things, dial in by location, one tap mobile links as well. So all of that is taken into account, okay? Okay, so here we are in the home stretch. Once you've gone ahead and you click this, you did this, you click it, it opens up, it says open Zoom meetings. You say click open Zoom meetings, and as soon as you open it, then you end up getting to test your video, test your audio if you want, or you may enter into the waiting room like you did, and then you get admitted into the main meeting, okay? And this is a wonderful shot here of the ceiling of my office. So I joined my test meeting with computer audio and my camera. Always, always, always watch your backgrounds, okay? And just to mention as well here, down at the bottom, this is the Zoom taskbar, okay? So you can mute or unmute yourself. You can start or stop your own video, okay? The meetings do not give me any control over your video or your audio, okay? So you may be muted at the beginning to start with, but if you unmute yourself, I'm kind of at the mercy of that, okay? With the webinars or with to add on to the prices, the more money, you get more control over the attendees, okay? But you can see here, you get participants, so how many people are there, question and answer box. You can actually create polls. You can share your screen. So that's a big thing, and that's what you're all seeing here. You have your chat bubble here. Also, interestingly, there is closed captioning, okay? So if you have people who are hard of hearing, and you do get computer generated closed captioning. So I do have here as an aside, for good closed captioning, do speak clearly and a tad bit slower than you might normally. and try and eliminate all the background noise. This makes for your best computer generated transcripts. I've seen some that are quite good, some that are meh. If you have any fans running, I usually have a fan going in my office. That kind of white noise is bad for the computer because you might not think about it, but I recorded a video and I couldn't believe it. It was raining cats and dogs out by the window. And I'm like, well, it was raining out, but you might not be able to hear that. That microphone picked up everything. Like, holy cow. So, but it wasn't enough. I let it go. The other thing too is you might want to consider actually letting some of that stuff go. It might make you more relatable. So, all right. Sorry, last but not least, and I can send, this is a PowerPoint slide. I can send out these slides with this information on it. And these are basically from Zoom support, what's the difference between a meeting and a webinar. And basically in basic format, Zoom meetings are ideal for hosting, more interactive sessions. They do have breakout rooms where people can go and discuss things and then come back. I have never used a breakout room, but that was a big question that someone else had asked. And so Zoom does have breakout rooms. I do not know if Google Meet has breakout rooms. I'm uncertain about that, which would mean if they don't have what they call breakout rooms, everyone would be chit-chatting over on top of each other rather than in their own little private area. So again, something to think about. Okay. So without going through all of this, like I said, I will send this out because it's like 1:15 now. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. If there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. If you gotta go, thank you very much. And hopefully I'll see everybody again soon. Please don't feel like, you have to stay, but I'm gonna stay. If you have other questions, type them in the chat and that, and we'll keep going. Oops. There we go. Okay. All right. Thank you. Take care, everyone. Thanks for the questions.
Okay.
Okay. I see we're down to 4 people. That's fine. Okay. Lisa, I think we're, whoop. Do you have a question? David? Okay. Hi. Common problems I've run into with video conferencing. How I resolve them. Oh, lack of familiarity. Yeah. The biggest problem I ran into the very first time I ever hosted a real meeting, like I said, I didn't join the meeting. I'm sitting there waiting for people and it's like 2 o'clock and I'm going, oh dear God, click join. Once I joined the meeting, suddenly there were like 5 people waiting to join. Okay, so as far as the common problems, the most common problem is number one really is the freezing. And most of the time freezing, the stopping, most of the time that has to do with bandwidth issues. And this is not bandwidth on your end as the teacher, as the professor, it's bandwidth on the student's end. And that goes with use and everything else. And unfortunately, there's little to nothing that you can do about that. One of the nice things though that I have seen is in conferencing is even if the picture freezes, I've been able to hear the person. So again, those video files are really large. The audio files are a bit smaller. So I can still hear people even if they're just stuck on my screen. So that's at least, a good thing that can happen. And like I mentioned, I have always suggested either logging in and logging out, or if I've noticed that there's issues, I will go ahead and actually ask people, I'll tell them, oh, I think you're frozen. I try and be friendly about things. I try not to be like, hey, you, David, you're stuck on the screen, you know, okay, like that. But try and be just kind of friendly and I think we're having a problem. I think, are you stuck? You look stuck on my screen type of thing. And you'll see that a lot of people do the same thing. Also, I have a tendency to talk with my hands, and I've noticed this as well when I've been on other calls. There was one gentleman in a meeting where he was asking, and it was a really good question, and he accidentally had himself muted. And people like me, we were doing this, and even the guy who was actually running the meeting was like, you are mute. I'm sure you're asking a great question, but nobody can hear you. So it's those types of things, trying to take advantage of those, and then giving people the time to actually then unmute themselves and kind of circling back around. So one of the things that had happened that I liked, I was a participant in a meeting. The host went ahead, the gentleman had one question, we couldn't hear him. He says, okay, we're gonna give him time to unmute himself. He went around to a couple other questions, but then made time to come back around to the initial person who had the problem. He was able to resolve it, and then we were able to go from there. So I have even creating just the real high-tech gadgets here with a pen and a piece of paper, noting questions or writing things down just to keep myself on track. And I would do that with a participant. So if they had a problem they could resolve, I might note the participant's name, go back around and see if they can resolve the problem. Okay. So that kept the meeting going without it bogging down, and then everybody got to participate, which was great. The more I told Lisa, I'm like, I'm really nervous. I've been teaching in front of people for 20 some odd years now. And I had the pre-class jitters before this. And why is that? Because I'm not talking to, I'm talking to you, I'm talking to a person, but I'm not seeing the person in front of me. I'm looking at a camera. And that's just odd. So to try and keep that, in perspective, and the more you use it, the more familiar you are, the more you can laugh at yourself, because you're going to make mistakes. That's okay. The better it's going to be. Okay. So yeah, it's as far as people, it's the other thing too, and this may seem kind of silly, but both humans and cats are predators, and we don't see motion forward and backward motion. Our eyes don't catch very well, but when you do this stuff on your screen, people actually see that. They'll actually look at the screen and they go, oh, because that's how most people, that's how we caught that one gentleman, and we're like, oh, we can't hear you, so even if you're not saying anything as a participant, one of the things I did was doing this to say, hey, there's a problem. So lighting is also good. So make sure you have some decent lighting. I've got some shadows going on now, but yet side to side motion, honestly, it'll catch people's eyes a lot quicker. Okay. Yeah, and being able to laugh at yourself, it's okay. Anticipate that there's going to be problems. It's okay. So, I hope that helps, and you will get the more you use the stuff, the easier it will get. So it just takes some time and experience. So, okay. Was there anything else? I think you can probably unmute yourself if you wanted to. So there you are.
Sure.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, thank you for the answer to that. Thank you for holding this workshop again. I think seeing these prompts has been really helpful just for seeing these platforms, because I only have experience with using WebEx myself. I haven't used any of these other platforms at all, so this is all still really new to me. And with all the kind of virtual learning that's going to be taking place coming soon, I think it's a really good idea to become more familiar with these kinds of things. So one other question I wanted to ask is there going to be a record sent out for this afterwards? Like, is this going to be emailed?
Like I said, you're my guinea pigs. I mean that in the best way possible. It is supposed to be recording now, and what I'm hoping to do is it's got to get processed in the cloud, and I am hoping by tomorrow I will get a link that will then share the whole thing out with all of the registered participants. So yes, that was the long answer, and the short answer is I'm hoping by tomorrow I'll have a link and it'll send out a recording, so you can kind of fast forward through it. You can pause it if you want and go from there.
Okay, great. Thank you. And one other thing I actually didn't realize was your remarks about the closed captioning. I didn't realize that you actually want to really control that noise and your talking speed so that the computer can catch those things. And one thing I was thinking of that might help with that too is sometimes what I'll do when I'm speaking is actually right now I have a set of headphones on, so that that noise just goes to the headphones, and that way the outside noise doesn't get to that open mic. So maybe that's something that could help with that too.
That you would think it does, but these little gadgets, these little gizmos, I'm telling you, the microphones are more dangerous than the video cameras. The video cameras can only shoot what they're pointing at, but if someone came in, I'll just point like over there, like through my door or whatnot, or somebody started yelling in the hall, those mics pick up everything. It was, like I said, it was raining out at one point. I was like, oh, it's raining out. You might not be able to hear that. Oh, you could hear it loud and clear. I was like, oh dear. So the microphones are definitely, they're 360, they're very sensitive. You can probably adjust the sensitivity on the mics depending on, you know, what you have and that. And there are some that are actually like, they're either noise canceling, noise reducing, not just the headphone part, but they're more active noise reducing, where they're only they're digitally just trying to pick up on the voice that's coming towards it rather than all of the ambient noise as well. But a lot of them are really sensitive, so.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm still experimenting with some of the noise suppression and such of the mics too. I imagine that takes some playing around with to get a handle on that. But thank you again for holding the workshop this evening. I think it was really valuable.
Okay, good. Yeah, and I'm so sorry we went a little long, but I'm trying.
Yeah, I expect these kinds of things to go a little past their time, right? Everyone's still trying to sort out how these things work. Like you said, certain issues will inevitably rise up. And with these presentations, people will have questions and such too. So I imagine that is involved with going over the estimate.
Yeah, and I try, you know, I try, like I was saying, like micro classes. You cannot cover, I find I cannot cover as much as I think I can within an hour time. Like I try and be over prepared, but it's a lot, you know, you just got to kind of throw it out there and then roll from there. So yeah, it's always better to be over prepared than under prepared. So
completely agreed.
But so good luck. Yeah, and watch those schools. Like I said, whoever asked it had a great question. You know, I teach at this school and this school. What about this? Security issues are prime. Security and privacy for schools, because you're dealing with juveniles, you're dealing with kids under 18, generally speaking. That's just, you gotta go with what the school sets up for you. So fortunately, a lot of them, they're really copying each other. So that's also good.
Right. All right. Well, thank you again, and I hope that you have a good evening.
Okay, you too. Thank you. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Okay, so I gotta, where is it? Oh, stop share. There we go. Okay, Lisa?
I think it went very well, don't you?
Yeah, okay. So that was really good, a lot of good questions in that. So yeah, and it was great. Thank you. It was great monitoring the chat. I think that went well. And yeah, I want to go home.
Anytime you want me to do that, just give me the dates in advance. I'll be happy to do it for you.
Okay, all right. And I'm wondering if we can do something like this, only like, for example, like Chris would be at her library in Newfane, and she might, it would just be like a one-on-one. So I'd be here and then they would be looking at the screen or showing, well, what about when this happens or what, so maybe we can do that as far as programming, like the gadgets stuff. I would do 20-minute sessions there anyways. So maybe we can start those kind of over Zoom. The problem is it's going to require a staff member from the library to kind of be present.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that's going to work, but maybe if I can start with poor Chris, she's my guinea pig. So,
All right,
all right,
come up when you're ready.
bye. Will do.